She looked me in the eyes, smirked with disdain, and said, "I needed a real man." In that moment, everything inside me collapsed. But the worst was yet to come. My own friends took her side. Want to know how it all happened, what she was really hiding from me, and how I reacted when I uncovered the whole truth. Stick around until the end, because this story will leave you speechless, and maybe make you rethink who you can truly trust. Well, it was a Friday, exactly 9:35 in the morning. When I heard that sentence, "I needed a real man," I just smiled, grabbed my keys, and walked away. Later, my phone was going crazy. 45 missed calls. Looking back, all the signs were there, scattered like breadcrumbs over the last few months of our relationship. But when you've been with someone for 3 years, it's easy to fall into the trap of justifying everything. I kept telling myself, she would never do that to me. It all started with small details. Emily began working overtime more often. Okay, fair enough. It was project season at work. But then came things that weren't so easy to explain. A new perfume I'd never smelled before, different clothes suddenly appearing in the closet, and her phone, always glued to her like it was part of her body. I was never the paranoid type, but something felt off. The way she would pull away when I tried to hug her from behind while she was texting. The calls, she said, were from the office, always stepping out of the room to answer. More frequent girls' nights. Girls whose names I had never heard in 3 years. Last Tuesday, I was folding laundry when her phone lit up on the coffee table. A quick notification from someone saved as Chris. The message? "Miss me already? Last night was..." And the rest was cut off. But my stomach twisted into a knot. I didn't want to be the guy who snoops through his girlfriend's phone, but in that moment, it felt like the universe itself was shaking me by the shoulders. When she got home, I decided to be direct. She was in the kitchen, making a smoothie like it was just another ordinary night. The sound of the blender filled the room as I leaned against the doorframe, watching. I waited for her to turn the machine off before asking, "Who's Chris?" Instantly, her shoulders tensed. But what came next completely broke me. She turned around and smiled. But it wasn't the sweet smile I was used to. It was cold, almost like she had just won a game. "I was wondering when you'd piece it all together, Ryan," she said, taking a sip of her smoothie. "Chris is my boss. And yes, I've been sleeping with him for 2 months." Each word cut like a blade. She said it with such ease, without a hint of guilt or remorse. Just satisfaction. "I needed a real man," she went on, her eyes full of contempt. "Someone who knows what he wants. Not a guy who spends the weekend playing Call of Duty with Ben and watching dumb comedies." I stood there, frozen, in shock. But amidst the collapse happening inside my head, something else surfaced. It wasn't hate, it was clarity, like a fog finally lifting. "Did Megan know?" I asked, referring to our mutual friend, the same one who introduced us. Oh, she's known for weeks," Emily laughed. "Most of our friends know. They understand that Chris can actually give me a future, not just empty promises and plans that never leave the paper. Those words hurt more than the betrayal itself. These were the people we spent birthdays with, holidays, countless dinners, and all of them watched this unfold in silence, maybe even laughing behind my back. I grabbed my phone and opened the group chat with Ben and Megan. "Is it true? You guys knew?" Ben replied almost immediately. "Dude, you're a great friend, but Emily needs someone more stable. Don't take it personally, okay?" Then Megan responded, "We never wanted to hurt you, Ryan, but maybe this is the wake-up call you needed." I looked up. Emily was still standing there, staring at me with that same sarcastic smile. It was like she was waiting for a show, waiting for me to lose it, to make a scene so she could retell the whole story, dramatized to everyone else. "Look at Ryan falling apart," she'd say. But instead, I smiled. A real smile, calm, one that completely threw her off. Without saying a word, I walked into the bedroom, grabbed my backpack, the one I always kept ready for weekend getaways, put my laptop and my keys inside. I walked past the kitchen again. She was still there, but her smile was no longer as firm. "Where do you think you're going?" she asked, her voice now laced with irritation. "Away," I replied simply. "And Emily, you can have the apartment. I'm sure Chris, your boss and lover, will love to help with the rent. She started to say something, but the door was already closing behind me. I didn't make a point of listening. My cell phone was vibrating again, messages and calls, probably from our friends trying to clear their consciences. Driving away, I hung up the phone and felt something unexpected: relief. Sometimes losing everything shows you exactly what was never really yours. I didn't know where I was going, but for the first time in a long time, I felt I was heading in the right direction. Update. First of all, thanks for the support on my last post. I really didn't expect so many people to identify with me or send me messages. A lot has happened in the last week, and to be honest, I'm still trying to absorb it all. I stayed in a simple motel on the outskirts of the city. Nothing fancy, but clean. And the owner, a gentleman called Pete, is a nice guy. When I told him my story, he gave me a $20 discount on the weekly rate. After 2 days in silence, I turned my cell phone back on. There were 27 missed calls, 61 messages, most from Emily, some from Ben and Megan, and several from unknown numbers. But what really caught my attention was the bombardment of social media notifications. Emily was busy. In Instagram stories, she painted a portrait of me that I barely recognized. According to her, I was a possessive, controlling boyfriend who watched my every move. She posted that I was emotionally abusive for years, that I isolated her from her friends, and that I had a violent crisis when she finally decided to break free. And the worst thing? People I thought were my friends were commenting, "Go Emily, you deserve better, we're with you." But the icing on the cake came in the form of a video. There she was, crying, claiming that she was the victim of financial abuse. She said that I forced her to split everything half and half while I hid money. Funny, considering she always earned more than me, and she was the one who wanted this arrangement from the start. Then I got a message from Lauren, a coworker I've known for years. "Hey, you might want to check your email. There's something going around the office, and it's about you." I opened it immediately. A general communique from the company talking about the importance of maintaining a safe professional environment, with a subtle, but absolutely clear, reference to certain behaviors of concern. No names were mentioned. I didn't need to. The timing said it all. I should have been furious. I should have responded, told my side of the story, defended my name. But instead, I just got curious. How far would she go with this? The answer came quickly. Very far. Yesterday, I stopped by the local coffee shop. It was my peaceful corner, a place I thought was safe. Emily always hated the coffee there, so I figured I was off the radar. I was wrong. The barista, who had always been friendly, looked at me like I was a sewer rat. Later, I found out why. Emily had become a regular customer, and with every cappuccino, she served a new chapter of her survivor story. She was spreading her version of events with such conviction that even strangers were ready to crucify me. But then, things started to shift. I went to pick up some clothes I'd stored in a locker and ran into Juliana, Emily's so-called best friend. She looked tense, glancing around like someone was following her. She walked over and whispered, "You need to be careful." "Careful of what?" I asked, already bracing for more nonsense. "Chris, he's not just her boss. His wife is extremely influential. And Emily, she told her you're unstable, that you're dangerous. Why are you telling me this?" She hesitated, but her eyes said everything. "Because this isn't the first time. Before you, there was another guy. Same pattern. She and Chris started something, then spread lies and manipulated everything. He ended up leaving town. No one's heard from him since. That hit me like a punch to the gut. When I got home, I spent the night digging. Old files, social media, even obscure forums. And yes, the guy existed. Mark. His digital trail vanishes right around the time Emily joined the company. It was like he'd been erased. Then, this morning, another blow. My landlord called. "Your girlfriend tried to remove your name from the lease," he said. "Claimed you abandoned the place. When that didn't work, she said you were threatening her. I thought you should know. My sister went through something similar years ago." I thanked him. And then came the twist. I received a message request on Instagram. The profile was of an elegant woman, appearing to be in her early 40s, wearing expensive jewelry in her profile picture. I didn't know her, but the message was direct. "I think we need to talk about my husband and your girlfriend. Coffee tomorrow?" Signed, Mrs. J. I have a meeting with her in less than an hour. Something tells me Emily's real man story is about to turn into a scandal worthy of a soap opera. And honestly, I can't wait. The strangest part of all this is that the more she spins this web of lies, the freer I feel. Seeing former friends believe her without even hearing my side, it was painful, but also liberating. Every fake post, every crocodile tear, every twisted story, all of it just confirms one thing. I didn't lose anything worth keeping. Update 2. Sorry it took me a while to come back. The past 2 weeks have been absolutely chaotic. Remember the coffee with Mrs. J? It changed absolutely everything. She wasn't just trying to understand what was going on. She had been gathering evidence for months, not just about Emily and her husband Chris, but about a silent pattern repeated for years within the company. Remember Mark, the guy who vanished? Turns out he wasn't the first. Mrs. J showed me documents, records, screenshots, emails, expense reports, and even security footage from the company's parking lot. She had documented at least 3 similar cases over the past 5 years, younger female employees getting involved with Chris and then helping to silence, push away, or destroy anyone who posed a threat. But this time would be different. Mrs. J was done staying quiet. Only one thing was missing, making everything public. And that's where the company's annual party came in. Honestly, my first intention was not to show up. Why would I? But Mrs. J was clear. Sometimes, the best revenge is letting the masks fall in front of everyone. The party was at a fancy hotel downtown. When I walked in, late, dressed better than ever, the entire room froze for 2 seconds. Emily nearly dropped her glass. Chris's face went from red to pale, as if he'd seen a ghost. And the best part, I didn't have to do a thing. Chloe was the first to approach me. Clearly drunk, and loud enough for half the room to hear, she said, "You've got some nerve showing up here, after everything you did to Emily." I took a deep breath and smiled. Everything I did to her? Interesting. Tell me more. That's when the energy in the room completely shifted. Lauren, my coworker, remember her, stepped in as if she had known exactly when to act. She had also been quietly gathering evidence. Screenshots of Emily bragging about her conquest in company group chats. Recordings of informal meetings where she and Chris plotted how to manipulate the narrative. Lauren turned to the room and said, "Actually, I think everyone here deserves to hear the real story." The next hour felt like watching a line of dominoes collapse, one by one, slowly and deliberately. Mrs. J entered with surgical punctuality, holding a tablet. Then, as if by magic, the room's projector began displaying a series of messages, photos, receipts, and recordings, all absolutely damning. Emily, of course, tried to react. She screamed, cried, tried to explain, to flip the narrative. But the more she spoke, the deeper she sank. Then came the real climax, courtesy of Jacob. That old saying, bros before hoes? Only until the hoe offers a shortcut to climb the ladder, right, Jacob? He had been recording everything on his phone, clearly trying to impress Chris later, prove his loyalty. But what he ended up capturing was Emily's total breakdown. Raw, unfiltered, unedited. "You think you're so clever, don't you?" she screamed, eyes wide with rage. "You and that bitter old woman trying to destroy everything I built. Chris loves me. We're going to have a life together." And that was when Mrs. J smiled for the first time that night. Without raising her voice, she opened an envelope and dropped divorce papers on the table beside her. The room fell into silence. "These documents were signed yesterday," she said firmly. "By the way, you're not the first he made those promises to. Just the latest. Same speech, same performance. Only the actress's name changed, and the best part? I stood there in silence. Never raised my voice, never lifted a finger. I just watched the house of cards collapse." Juliana, who had been quiet in the corner of the room until then, stepped forward. "I helped her," she said, voice trembling. "I helped ruin Mark's reputation. I believed her. I spread the lies. But I can't do it again." No one said a word. At midnight, the party had turned into a graveyard. Emily stormed out, mascara smeared across her face, stumbling over her own heels. Chris was locked away with HR, and the friends who had so quickly bought into her narrative, they couldn't even look me in the eye. And me? I walked out in silence, breathing lighter than I had in a very, very long time. As I was leaving the hall, Mrs. J grabbed my arm. "Thank you. she said firmly, with a hint of exhaustion in her eyes. For being the only one who didn't run, I returned to my motel room with a strange, almost surreal peace. Pete, the owner, was still up at the front desk, watching an old game on TV. He looked at me with his usual calm manner and smiled. "Good night, Ryan." I took a deep breath. For the first time in a long while, I answered honestly, "You can say that, yeah." The next morning, my phone started buzzing again, but this time, the tone was different. Messages of apology, people trying to explain, those who claimed they never really believed Emily, but conveniently only decided to speak up now. In the middle of all that, one notification caught my eye. It was from Mark, the guy who had vanished years ago. Apparently, he'd been following everything through mutual contacts. "Glad someone had the guts," he wrote. "Sometimes karma doesn't need our help, it just needs an audience." Final update. This is it, the final chapter of this story, and if you've made it this far, you might as well grab some popcorn. The fallout from the party was much bigger than anyone expected. Within 48 hours, Chris and Emily were formally invited to resign. That was just the beginning. Remember that dossier Mrs. J had been compiling? I found out that was just the tip of the iceberg. There was more. So much more. Falsified expense reports to cover their dinners, emails conspiring against coworkers, manipulated performance reviews to sabotage employees who asked too many questions. She handed over everything, every bite, straight to the board and the company's legal department, and they acted fast. The issue wasn't just morale, it was legal. A pattern of professional misconduct, workplace harassment, and internal fraud. Now, Chris and Emily are facing civil lawsuits and possibly criminal charges. And here comes the part that feels straight out of a movie. Mark came back. Yes, he returned to town, and he brought evidence. A lot of it. He had documented everything before he left. Emails, screenshots, conversations, even records of how Emily and Chris orchestrated the destruction of his reputation. At the time, he didn't know what to do with it. But now he had a path forward. Mrs. J put him in contact with her attorney. 3 days later, Mark filed his own lawsuit. And that's when something beautiful happened. Other former employees began to come forward, each with their own story, each with their own files, their own wounds, their own proof. What began as a scandal turned into an avalanche. Emily tried to get ahead of it, as always, but there was no one left willing to believe her. She posted a tearful video claiming to be the real victim, that she had been manipulated by Chris and was now being unfairly targeted. That's when Juliana finally found the courage. She published screenshots of their private conversations, the ones where Emily bragged about her conquests, mocked the victims, and plotted reputational takedowns like she was writing a grocery list, and then everything completely unraveled. Last week, Emily showed up at my motel. Pete, the owner, called me at work. "That girl you told me about. She's making a scene in the parking lot. I didn't rush. I came back calmly. She was there, sitting on the hood of my car, mascara running, holding a brown envelope with trembling hands. I have secrets on everyone," she said, trying to sound threatening. "If you don't help me, I'll expose everything." I laughed, genuinely and calmly. "Go ahead, burn what's left. Let's see what happens." She threw the envelope at me. Inside, photos, screenshots, messages, years of manipulation, blackmail, and lies. Her insurance policy. I photographed every page in front of her, then handed them back. "Publish whatever you want. But first, look around. See how far your weapons have gotten you. People like Emily can't stand losing control." She tore up the envelope right there in the middle of the parking lot, screaming that we would all regret it. Someone filmed it. The video went viral. It was the final blow. Yesterday, Mrs. J's divorce was finalized. And guess what? She got everything. The house, the cars, most of the assets. The severance Chris was supposed to get from the company went straight to legal fees. His reputation, destroyed. His career prospects. Let's just say Google tells a very different story now when you search his name. And Emily? Vanished from social media. Last I heard, she's moving back in with her parents. New state, new beginning. The friends who swore loyalty to her, now they're dealing with the consequences. Jacob tried to apologize. He sent a huge message, full of regret. I replied with a screenshot of his texts defending Emily, and left it at that. He blocked me. Coward. Chloe's been on edge too. She's terrified that the screenshots Emily had might come back to ruin her career. I almost feel bad. Almost. And me? I just signed the lease for my new apartment, got a promotion, met someone. I'm taking it slow, doing it the right way. I've learned that the best revenge isn't revenge. It's living well and letting the masks fall off on their own. But between us, watching it all burn was absurdly satisfying. This is my final update. Thank you for following this journey. If you enjoyed it, leave a like on this video and remember one thing: karma doesn't need your help. Sometimes, all you need to do is step back and let people show you who they really are.